Click. And just like that, everything falls into place. I am Kurt Von Onen. I am with Magic Emily Middleton. We are here with the LifterLMS Ask Us Anything call. And I don't see a lot of numbers coming in live yet. So if you're not with us yet, make sure you click the button and get in here. We are on, oh my goodness, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on X. The replay gets put up to Facebook. We've got a couple of things that we do here. We take your questions live. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We'd also love it if you just got in chat and said who you are, where you're from, and all those kinds of fun things. Engage with us so we can have a little bit of banter. If you want to try LifterLMS, you can go to lifterlms.com/try. For just $1, you get 30 days of hosted access to a fully populated demo website that you can do whatever you want with, which is kind of fun to do. And then after that, a 55% off coupon, which is available at AMA-gift. So that would be lifterlms.com/AMA-gift. Emily, I'm not going to lie, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, me too.
Did you spend 12 hours towing vehicles back and forth across the state of Kansas for your daughter to break?
No.
What I did. That's what I did. That Civic I just put together for my son, I had to give it to my daughter because she broke her Jeep. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just bring the Jeep back to the house and I'll bring you the Civic. So I towed the Civic out to her, gave it to her. Now the Civic has new brakes, new suspension, fresh alignment, water pump, timing belt, valve adjustment, spark plugs, coils, new radiator, coolant flush, new hoses, new belts. That car is completely redone. It's high mileage, but it's completely redone, right? She drove it to work. Hit something. All the oil fell out of the car. Had to go out and drag it back to my house from 2 hours away. I'm tired. I haven't even gotten under the car to see what's broken yet. I just know that the car was in perfect condition and now it is broken. So I have 5 cars in my family and now 4 of them need work.
Wow.
You'd swear I was a mechanic for a living.
Yeah.
How are you? Your apartment's looking well put together. You look like you've lived there for months and you've really just gotten there. It's looking good.
Thank you. Yeah, just getting things set up very slowly. But yeah, things are moving along. So much art to hang and lights to hang and stuff, but we're kind of getting through it. Thank you.
So we bought this house a year ago and it doesn't feel like a year, but it's been a year. Like this 2 weeks ago was like our closing anniversary, right? So now September is like, okay, you've been here a year. So September 1st to me is like the year, right? Like September to September, it's a year. But we got this house and moving in, my wife was like, that wallpaper's got to go. And now it's been a year and there's like no more putting it off. Like she's ordering stuff off of Amazon to like peel the wallpaper off the wall. Like, and she wants to put a doorway in the living room. Like she's like, oh, I think a door should go there that would shortcut the route to the washroom or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to turn into some projects. But home ownership, I was all on your plan, what you said, taking your time. I'm like, let's just take our time. But we've already painted a couple of rooms and now we're going to be stripping wallpaper and redoing the walls. And then when that's done, we want to pull up the carpet and do some different flooring. So, and I still have to get my container and build my outdoor cook center. Got a lot of stuff going on. What's new in the WordPress world? Anything you want to talk about? I think it's going to be slow this week because of WordCamp and a lot of stuff is just like, seems to be not happening this week.
Yeah. I am just cooking along, doing the same client project work, wrapping up a huge custom development project. And I don't know, that's really, really about it. There's just like a monthly ongoing contract that I have with that, but I feel good about custom development now. Yeah, big custom development project, and I haven't really done a custom development project at that scale before, so that's been like my main focus over the last few months.
Yeah. Well, I actually have one to discuss with you after our calls today, if you decide you want to.
Yeah, I'm down.
I figure I'll take your newly found expertise and put it to work. Either that or I got to figure it out myself. It's probably quicker to talk to you.
Yeah.
See, that's how that works, folks. Talk to people you know and make things happen. So with WordCamp being this week, I reached out. I can't remember if it was on X or post status on Slack or something like that. But someone had said, "Oh, I feel like I'm missing out. I've got FOMO for not going to Portland." And then I was like, "Oh, you don't have to have FOMO. We can just jump on a Zoom call and have our own WordCamp." And he's like, "I'm in." So I met with Derek Asher yesterday, and we just had like an hour chat. Like, just got to know each other and stuff. And I don't know if you know who you know, Derek, right? Do you?
I don't think so.
He has like 3 different products he's created. He used to do a lot of client work, and then he spooled back his agency client work and focuses more on products. And so it's just really interesting for me to talk to other product developers, more than just Chris with LifterLMS. To me, it's like, how does a product person really think? How do they do their work? How do they structure their day? How do they forecast sales? How do they know what the revenue is going to be, right? In a lot of cases, they don't know what the revenue is going to be, but they can take an educated guess at it, and it's kind of interesting to see that. It's one of the reasons I like to follow Katie so much, Katie Keith on X. She puts a lot of her internal thoughts into her X posts, and so you can kind of take away from her posts what it's like to be on the product side of WordPress and deal with things, or sell or acquire, because she's acquired things and she's sold things. So it's interesting to see, because with 60,000 plugins in the repository, you would think things are, hey, Delphine, welcome. Not the land of bears. My wife gave me a hard time because they actually had a show on, oh crud, I can't remember what. I think she might have been watching Prime, right? So Amazon. But they were featuring Vancouver Island, and she was freaked out. She goes, "Oh my God, come here. You're not going to believe it. Vancouver Island has like a city on it. There's people there." And I was like, "Baby, I've already talked to people that live there. There's a Burger King on Vancouver Island. I mean, they are fully civilized." But we had got our introduction to the island from the show alone, where it's just bears and wolves and deadly things. So, yeah, that's fun. I have a good time with that. All right. This is going to be a short call if we don't get some people in here asking some questions, because I don't know how much I can make things up, Emily. I'm at a loss. I don't know how to make things up nonstop. We could talk about how there is, hey, isn't that amazing? Yes, Delphine, that is amazing. LifterLMS had a new release within a week. I'd say within a week or 8 days. And there were a couple of things there. One was increased security for content for creators. Another thing was direct compatibility for spam reduction with reCAPTCHA, or God, there's like 2 or 3 of them, right? There's reCAPTCHA, and then there's, what's the other one? I can't remember.
There's the one by Cloudflare that's like Turnstile.
Turnstile, that's what I was thinking. Turnstile. I've tried using Turnstile before for not my client work, but for subcontracted client work. And I'll be honest with you, I got more confused than I got clarity out of using the Cloudflare stuff. Cloudflare is, I know it's a great tool, but it's like deeper than it seems on the surface. You know what I mean? Like when you get into Cloudflare, you're like, oh, I'm just going to have it manage my DNS settings. And then next thing you know, your website goes blank. And then you're like, oh, now what? And then they go, oh, well, you got to do, you got to proxy this one, but you got to not proxy this one. And you got to this. It's like, okay, well, it would have been great if there was like an onboarding video that explained the details. But I find that customers, like, we do it for customers, and it just works. Like, I just set it up and it works. But then when customers do it themselves and then say, oh, here's my Cloudflare credentials, to change the DNS settings, usually it's messed up. I think people just get in there and get confused and start clicking things.
Yeah. No, it's really easy to get things twisted around when you start using like CDNs and CAPTCHA stuff. But now LifterLMS 9.0, right, supports those things, where you can go in and make sure that people are not submitting forms or credit card fraud or are bots. And that's pretty cool that that's like in the core product now. Because previously you would need to get like themes and get that integrated, because if you wanted to have any kind of protection on forms, but now it's just straight through Lifter. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then the other thing that was in there, not that. That's what I'm looking at the change log and I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for like the release notes from 9.0. Is this going to be it? That's not what I'm looking for either. Additional checks for valid courses during the setup wizard. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. Oh my goodness. This is bad. I should have been better prepared. I wasn't prepared for people to not show up today. I should have been prepared. Let's do version 9 and let's see what comes up. Because there was the security increase for failed credit card attempts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty cool. So if someone tries to use your LifterLMS powered website to like try a bunch of stolen credit card numbers to see if anything can go through, that's a pain in the butt. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a website that had that happen or not, Emily. I've had customers where it's happened and they just freak out. I've got 1,500 failed transactions. Why am I'm losing all these sales? I'm like, you're not losing any sales. It's fraud. Like, it's not you didn't lose any sales. Now we got to figure out how to combat that. Well, now LifterLMS has a factor built into the payment gateways where if someone has multiple failed payment attempts, they get blocked.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good one.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah. Let's do what would they call that? Content security. Content protection feature. So this was one of our new pieces that was put up. I'm just going to do a screen share with it. I don't see a bunch of questions coming in other than Delphine being excited that we're talking about new features in the platform. So let's do a shared screen. Let's go into content protection. And so, folks, you're going to notice, and this is where I'm going to really pat the team on the back pretty hard for LifterLMS. The resources are amazing here. If you go into any of our, like the knowledge base and do any kind of search, it's really well powered, really full of content. Obviously, we have stuff on our blog and our podcast, but this knowledge base is crazy informative. I'm a self-taught kind of person, and when I first got into Lifter, one of the reasons I chose Lifter was because of all of the content and the knowledge base. So most of our content is going to start out with some kind of video tutorial. So if you wanted to click on the video, you could watch the video. Totally cool. But it says, what are the content protection settings? It says the content protection setting prevents students or visitors from copying content from the course or the lesson page. This is a thing that people asked for a lot. I've never really understood it because I'm like, I never reinvent the wheel with my training, right? Like I didn't invent the subject or the topic. I just deliver it in a unique way. So to me, I'm like, if someone steals something off my page, they're actually kind of promoting me, right? So that's just like my thinking, my line of thinking. Anyway, it says the feature will be available in the free core LifterLMS version. So you don't have to buy a bundle or anything for this feature to work. It says users with unrestricted preview access will not be affected by the settings. So if you're like an administrator, it's not going to affect the way that you see things. It says users can still take screenshots or use source code of the page to steal your images and your text. So it's super, super important to make sure that people understand this. Anything on a web page can be stolen by anybody that uses the next step, like the next thing. If you could open up a Zoom window and do a screen capture of a Zoom window and record a video. Like you could do that, right? The thought of it is like, it's kind of like having a club on a Like if you have a muscle car and you park it at the mall and you put the club on the steering wheel, if somebody really wants to steal your muscle car, the club on the steering wheel is not going to stop them from really wanting to steal your car. But if they're like an amateur thief, it's probably going to just, derail them a little bit from their thoughts. So that's what we're talking about here. When we're talking about added security, we're saying someone can't just right click on your video and download it, or right click on your image and download it, right? And so what we've done is we've added these protection settings into the bottom area here. You see under the general settings, there's a section for content protection, and you can click that to enable that. And it simply says, prevent users from copying the website content and downloading images. Users with unrestricted preview access will not be affected by the setting. Again, administrators or like instructional designers, like they're not going to have those types of restrictions based on the role that you give them. But you're basically just going to go to the basic settings, the general settings at the bottom of your course or membership page, and you're going to select content protection, and that's going to enable that. And it is, from my understanding, it's membership by membership. Was it membership by membership, or was it role? I can't remember.
The content protection one came out like a while back. That one was a global setting. So if you go to like LifterLMS general settings, you have that content protection option. If I share my screen, I can show you where that's at here. In LifterLMS settings.
Hey, and while you're doing that, I'm going to go get a coffee.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Sounds good. I did just put in chat the what's new with 9.0 post, and that one is right here. I could run through those settings, but content protection, like Kurt's talking about, is here. This one prevents users from copying content and downloading images, and so that one's been in LifterLMS for a little bit of time now. But what we see that's new when we update to 9.0 is a security option in the LifterLMS settings. Security that wasn't there before. We can turn on a CAPTCHA, so we can have reCAPTCHA, we can sign up for free and add in our site keys. We can have a little score minimum between 1 and 10 for how that will return if you're likely to be a robot or less likely to be a robot, and how strict you want to be. Or you can do turnstile, which is by Cloudflare. So you have two options for robot protection, reCAPTCHA or turnstile. Spam protection is what Kurt was talking about, where you can block IPs from checking out with more than 10 failures within 15 minutes, which is almost always credit card fraud. And then what else is new in 9.0? We have stronger content protection. You can actually restrict media files now to a course or membership, which is something you couldn't really do before. So if we edit any media file in our library, we can see LifterLMS media protection. That allows us to select a course or membership on our website that has access to this media. We can also do that from within a course. So if we're editing our LifterLMS Quick Start course, for example, let's say we have like an image or a PDF or something in our media library, we can insert whatever that is, and then we have this little icon to lock it down, which is the same setting I showed in the media bin, but that's going to be over here in any course membership page or anywhere you're adding media on your website. So that's how the media protection feature works. And then, of course, you can use things like the description and caption to mark these pieces of media as members only or whatever you want to do there. We talked about the reCAPTCHA turnstile. And then featured video and audio also apply to the membership catalog now. Previously, only the course catalog supported video. So like a little video preview. And so that's on the membership catalog now. For student experience on mobile, it's a little bit easier with this drop-down menu for students to navigate their student dashboard on mobile. And then you can detach lessons from the actual like course lessons area. I'm not sure most of our users are going to be doing that, but that detach option is now available. And then instructor details and estimated course length are now in the main course editing area. So when we edit a course, like here, we scroll all the way down, we have that new option for instructors. that we can modify instructors here rather than what we had to do before, which is go to LifterLMS and then go to instructors up here, which was really complicated and hard to find. So now instructors is down there. But yeah, let's see, I think estimated course length is probably here in general. So some of those settings that were over in the sidebar, hard to find before, are now in that little main course area that Lifter adds. And then there are some more, I think there's some more countries available. LifterLMS Elementor provided even more seamless integration for Elementor experience and refreshed country and region list to improve international support. So that's good. So there's some Elementor updates, and that's really it for 9.0. But a lot of updates in a lot of different areas.
The most secure.
Most secure.
Yeah, that was a big thing we had a meeting this week. It said we are the most secure LMS and WordPress. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
The stopping spam thing to me is a big deal because so many of our clients just get hammered with spam through the site. So, but I do got to say, it's still much better than the spam I received from putting a sample course in Udemy. Hi, we really like your course. Would you need help selling your course? We can help you bring more students to your course.
Yeah, Udemy is a great platform to, get out there, promote your courses, and validate that you have an audience for your courses. But if you're trying to scale, get into the high dollar market, you're going to have a hard time doing that on Udemy. And it sounds like your experience is getting spammed by marketers.
My experience was getting spammed by marketers. But that's my experience in LinkedIn too. I'm up to 10,000 contacts in LinkedIn. And I was like, oh, I got to grow my LinkedIn audience. So I grew my LinkedIn audience, and I got so much message spam through the LinkedIn Messenger. I was like, oh my goodness. So there's like a reasonable, responsible way to approach somebody, a stranger, in direct messaging. And that doesn't seem to exist in that platform except for a very small percentage of people. So I get spammed nonstop, like paragraph upon paragraph upon paragraph of stuff I'm never going to read. Did you know I had a course on how to grow your LinkedIn to 10,000 users?
No.
Yeah, I have a course on that. I have a course on how to grow your LinkedIn. My course that I'm developing now on how to develop your own successful WordPress agency is coming along very well.
Oh.
These assorted nuts I'm eating as a snack are going over really well too.
Yeah, I'm totally like brain fogged, tired today.
Oh, it's just the events of this week have just absolutely exhausted me. But what's interesting is, and I think I had this conversation, and by the way, folks, it's not uncommon for me to get personal and say things or talk about things out in the open. We noticed at the beginning of August that revenue was down. Like, we put out invoices that didn't get paid on time, which is not normal for our clients. So we put out invoices that didn't get paid on time. We didn't have a lot of incoming stuff. And right when I was starting to think, oh my goodness, what's going wrong? I was like, wait a minute. I should probably take a look at some reports. And so I did like a Katie Keith dive on business reporting. And I I should have known, but let's say I reminded myself that a lot of my business is in power sports and marine. Well, in power sports and marine, these people, the guys that own those dealerships, they don't want to talk to me at their busiest time of year. They want to sell motorcycles and boats. And so I naturally slow down June, July, and August. But then you pack in back to school, vacations, WordCamp coming up. You pack in all those things in August. It just makes sense that from the WordPress perspective, business is going to go down too. So my three verticals, WordPress, power sports, and marine, all go down June, July, and most importantly in August. That's why in August it hits really hard. So this month I was like, you know what? I'm just going to reduce the hours that I work. Like normally I would like, I'm going to double down on my marketing. I'm going to go to more meetings. I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to email more people. And this year I was like, I'm going to go to the lake. I'm going to go mountain biking. I'm going to go camping. I raced a gravel ride. If you remember, like 3 weeks ago, I did a race out in the middle of Kansas. It was fun, super great. Last weekend, I got certified as a level 2 mountain bike coach. So I did 10 miles of mountain biking, hung out with friends, and got certified for that. And so this year, I've taken a completely different approach to this. And then, you know, Emily, I always say a lot of times you got to trust the process, right? Because I'm a really process-driven person. I got to tell you, my email is full of top of funnel activity now going into September. I mean, literally, there's like 5 clients sitting here in my inbox. I'm like watching their emails come in, scheduling their appointments and getting their needs assessments scheduled. So I knew it would come around. Nice. And we've started a new power sports training class on September 2nd. So bada boom, bada bing, Bob's your uncle. Everything's right on schedule. And I enjoyed the crud out of August. So instead of being like, oh, woe is me, business is down, I was like, this is great. I'm going to the lake.
Nice.
Oh. How about you? How are things going?
Things are going all right here. I have a sweeping amount of work to do just on like all the rest of my clients to clean up after this like big client job in terms of just like getting invoices sent and getting organized and getting emails all done. But I'm like looking at like what I can do to restructure my business. Like I'm kind of in that pensive time right now of like, what am I going to do for the upcoming year? Like what's the core of my business going to be? You know, where do I want to take it? Stuff like that. Got to think about all that.
I got a thing to talk about with you.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it publicly so that everyone knows just how crazy I am. So since 2008, our policy has always been everyone prepays for the work that we do. If it's an extended contract and it's month to month, they pay a retainer a month in advance of the work that's performed. It's been that way. Like I don't have an accounts receivable department. It just adds cost and frustration. And anytime that I break that rule, it always comes back to bite me. Like customer I love this customer. I love their project. I love working with them. The work that we do is top notch, but send them an invoice and like 45 days go by and I've sent multiple reminders and then they wanted to have a meeting and I was like, I can't schedule any more meetings with you until your account's reconciled. And then they paid one invoice, but not the big one. And I'm like, so finally, and I dreaded it, but I called them up and I'm like, hey, just got to make sure, you know, you're not disappointed. Are we meeting your expectations? You haven't paid this invoice yet. And it was like a totally like missed event. Like, they're like, oh no, we love working with you. What do you mean we missed an invoice? And I was like, So got paid right away. But that's why I have these policies. Like everyone's like, why do you have these policies? Because I get physically ill thinking I have to call somebody and ask for my money, right? Like I'm not good at it. I'm good at it. I mean, like I'm effective. I get my money, but I don't enjoy it. Like I wouldn't have been good working in the mob, you know, shaking down the dry cleaner for $1,500 a week would not have been a good calling for me. So also in the last 2 months, we have lost 2 bids on needs assessments. And both of these bids were between $6,000 and $10,000, right? So we're an agency. Someone comes and says, we want you to do this project for us. And I say, okay, great. Let's do a needs assessment. We meet, blah, 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 blah. Here's what it's going to cost. $6,000, $10,000, take your pick, whatever. In both cases, and these were businesses. These weren't hobbyists working out of their garage. They were real businesses. In both cases, the businesses passed on our offer, but went with a provider that agreed to a subscription model of say between $300 and $600 a month. And so my question to you, Emily, is if you were building a website from scratch, would you want $6,000 up front and then like hosting and maintenance paid for forever? Or would you be open to saying, oh, hey, instead of giving me $6,000 up front, you can give me $300 a month for the rest of your life?
I like $300 a month. See, if we do like 300 x 12, that's like 3,600. So we have to retain them for like 3 years in order to get that money.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on the build out time though. I'm like actually more in the camp of like, whatever you need, we can build it. So, a lot of WordPress people are looking to invest, learn how to, get their site going up front and then run it themselves ongoing. So a lot of what practically ends up happening is those $6,000 upfront projects, and then they just maintain it themselves ongoing on whatever hosting company they want, and then bring in maintenance when they need it.
Yeah.
But like for long-term viability, $300 a month is a better deal. I look at the question of like, do I want to, am I solving the problem that people are coming to me for? And do I want to be like in this website, in this project forever? Miss Puffles in chat asks, is it stressful to keep track of all the clients?
Yes.
It can be. It totally can be. I don't know many people whose like intuitive calling in life it is to like do client work and maintain ongoing subscriptions, but it is a way to make money. Like if you scale like a hosting service, when you have like people for $30 to $100 a month, and then you just get a bunch of customers with that $30 to $100 a month maintenance. Like hosting is the best business you can be in as far as profitability. It's just that like, it's hard for me to work on projects that I'm not like particularly passionate about. Like it gets kind of like swimming in molasses after some point. So sometimes I'm like, I'll take that $6,000 project up front. I'll work on getting it built out for like a month, and then I will ship it off and it'll be gone into the ether. But like if I really did want to like grow this business, if I really was like super invested in this business and growing this business or building an agency or building a software, I would totally be taking those $300 a month options.
See, now in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, if I were to take a $10,000 project and convert that to a subscription model, say at $350 a month, right? I'm just throwing things out there. I have to keep that project for 3 years to break even on my original quote, right? And so then I look at it like, I'm going to do the hosting. I'm going to be the admin. They're going to have to use me for some kind of updates and maintenance. And they're not going to get admin status to the site because it's going to have to be written in somewhere that you have to maintain the account with us to a certain dollar amount or something. That kind of defeats the whole WordPress is open and you own it and all that kind of stuff. Like we sell the sites based on the idea that the client has the freedom to do whatever they want with the content. But I'm not going to build out a website in 30 days for $300 that's worth 10 grand and say, here you go, here's full access to it.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't do that.
Yeah. So we really got to, I'm just trying to think it through, As you know, I've got people that are not in the WordPress space where I live that are offering subscription models for different types of websites. And I'm thinking to myself, do I want to just keep representing the idea that, hey, I'm the expert, you're going to get the better product here, but it's going to take a capitalization up front? Or do I want to jump on the subscription game? And realistically, just being blunt and honest, it would actually be financially easier to put people on subscriptions and then look at that every month and go, because, most agencies kind of judge themselves on that recurring monthly revenue, right? And so if you were to say, oh, I've got 25 clients at $300 a month, plus the other projects that come in, well, that would be pretty cool. I would feel guilty though. That's my whole problem, Emily. Because you know me, you know how ethical I am. I would feel guilty. Let's say it's a $3,000 project and I say it's $300 a month. When they get to the 10th month, they will have paid $3,000, right? But they signed up for a subscription model. So they're going to keep paying $300 a month until they move the site away from me or threaten to leave and renegotiate or something, right? So they're locked in at $300 a month. I would say by like the end of the second year, I'm probably going to have like so much guilt that I'm still collecting money from them I would be like, I'm just going to give you a year's hosting for free or something. Like, I don't even know how I would, you know what I mean? That's a hard one. Because
Yeah, I guess.
to keep collecting what I would consider development money spread out over time, way past the development costs. But I know that's how those other subscription companies are making their margins, right? Because the goal is, yeah, there's a little bit of risk getting started, but the payoff long term is going to be better.
Yeah, I think there's a ratio you need to have in order to make it like what the total cost of your investment is going to be. Because if you're going to spend like um, a ton of money of your time up front that you only recoup that investment in like 3 years, it's probably not going to be worth it. There's a lot of metrics to think about, and especially like more depth that I try to get into with the companies I work with. And not all the companies I work with have these metrics or even want to develop them at the time they're working with me. But thinking about like if they're going to invest 10 grand in a project, or if they're going to invest $300 a month in a project, like, do we know what the return on that project is going to be? That's where getting started on Udemy can be like really helpful, because you can be like, oh, okay, over the course of 1 year, having my course on Udemy, obviously they charge their own prices, they do their own thing, whatever. We have a price point average of $15 over 1 year on Udemy, and I got, maybe 500 course enrollments. So if we were to say 500x $15, and you don't get all that money, but maybe that's $7,500 and you don't get all that money, but because Udemy takes a cut. That's not very much for like an entire year of work, but you did get 500 students within a year. So then we could say, like, what if we did bring this to our own platform, the course that we've already created, the content we've already created, and then did some math on like what would scaling look like? What if we were to like, quadruple our pricing to $60 a ticket, and we had it on our own platform? Then we might have 500 sales the following year at $60, and we have validation, and then we're now making $30,000 a year on that course. Udemy's not taking a cut. Stripe is taking a cut of like 3%. 3% on 30,000 is was that like 90 or something? Let's see, 30 or 900. 30,000 x 0.03.
$9,000.
$900.
$900.
Yeah, so you got kind of like you're figuring out some logistical portions of your business without having to get into WordPress and the hosting and the building and validating your assumptions. So I'd recommend installing metrics in your business model that validate your assumptions as quickly as possible and limit the number of factors that could go wrong. So, we have a lot of people who get into WordPress like from scratch. I did this. Throw up a course, develop their course, put their videos on Vimeo, and now they're paying for a hosting subscription, a domain name, video hosting. They're paying for a bunch of services, and they don't have any students yet. They're trying to break into an industry with a WordPress website, and I find that kind of hard. I might recommend starting on YouTube or Udemy if you're trying to break into an industry, or even Facebook, Reddit, whatever it is, or teaching courses in person. And then you're like, okay, I'm kind of in the industry. I kind of know that there's demand here. Then you can invest in a ship, a little WordPress ship to sail into that sea. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also agree with sampling different markets. Like, I have years and years and years and hundreds of videos in at YouTube, and I'm still held up at like, I think 97 subscribers. Like, it's almost embarrassing. It's comical now. Like, I don't even get upset. Now it's just comical, right? It's like, oh my goodness, I got hundreds of videos up there and I got 97 subscribers. But I tried different things. I started putting some content on TikTok, and I was amazed at how many people followed me on TikTok. Like, and it's because I have different accounts that do different things, and I get comments and shares, and it's like, okay, that's unique. I didn't think this old bald guy was going to pull any looks or views on TikTok, but it's weird. It's like there's the different channels do different things, and there's different video platforms to experiment with too. So it's been good. My LinkedIn Live surprisingly does a lot for me. So the numbers aren't great. It's kind of like podcasting. My podcast numbers aren't that great, but everyone seems to know my podcast. Like, I run into so many people just in the walk of life that have heard of or listened to or saw an episode on my podcast. And it doesn't make, because the numbers don't show that. You know, like I run into people in town, I'll run into people like, oh, you have that podcast, right? And I go, oh, yeah, which one? Because I'm on a couple of different ones. But then they'll know the Mañana No Mas podcast. And I'm like, that's weird. Because when I look at the stats for the podcast, there's no comments, there's no sharing, there's no subscribers. It's like nothing's happening there. But it seemed like I was going to turn it off based on the stats. I was going to stop doing the podcast. But then the first time I think it really happened to me was when I was with you in San Diego, and that lady screamed, "You're the Mañana No Mas guy." And then it's happened multiple times since. So it's weird, right? When I was thinking about turning off the podcast is when people started to recognize me from the podcast, which is, yeah, the stats don't represent the reality of what it's doing. And I feel that way about the LinkedIn. I think the LinkedIn is more valuable than the numbers and stats portray. Whereas my Facebook is useless. And my Facebook by the numbers looks like I'm a rock star, but because I have probably unfriended and unfollowed 5 times the amount of people that are actually on there now. Like at one point I was maxed out on all the numbers in Facebook. I was crazy on Facebook. But it didn't generate anything for me. Like it didn't do anything. Everyone's got a different sample market, I suppose. Let's say Delphine said, yeah, you got it. So Miss Puffles says, does the size of the company matter in how you feel about it? Obviously it does, right? And I say obviously because it's like usually the size of the company is in direct relation to the size of the work, at least in my cases and what I found. Now, Ms. Puffles, what I do, like when I'm doing corporate work, so I do startup work and I do enterprise level builds at my agency. When I'm doing an enterprise level build, I ask certain questions. Who are the stakeholders? Who is involved in this project? How many vice presidents at the top of the rung are going to have a say in the final product? And I ask those questions in advance, because if you don't ask those questions in advance, you're setting yourself up for a painful journey through corporate America. Because usually what happens is some underling is put in the position of, hey, go find us 5 vendors that could do this project. And then you end up in that pool of people. And what you're trying to do is like, you want to get away from the junior, right? So the junior does kind of the grunt work and finds 5 vendors that could be a possible solution. And your goal is to overcome those 4 other vendors and get to the manager, the director, the vice president, and eventually the president or CEO of something. And then if that works, then you have to recognize that you are now in a design or content by committee situation. That is completely different than working with a startup and like hanging out with your best friend Bob and helping him launch his business. It's completely different. So what I normally find with startups is one direction by one owner goes a certain way, and then halfway or 80% through the project, their spouse gets involved, male or female, doesn't matter, and they have a different opinion, and then there's some giant swing in the direction of content or graphics or changing a base color in the global theme or whatever. Something happens, but it's usually something it sounds like a pain in the butt, but it's easily surmountable. You just go, oh, okay, well, I understand you want to change direction here. Let's just tweak this, tweak that. Does that mean your expectation's great? And go. Like for startups, I'm able to overcome those things pretty quickly. In corporate work, I don't know if you have had corporate experience in bidding out jobs or not, but it's kind of like when you go to get a windshield. When you go to get a windshield in your car, if you have insurance, the windshield is $1,800. If you don't have insurance, it's $275, installed, right? It's just kind of like how that works. Like the pricing's completely different. I feel that way with commercial work. When I'm doing commercial enterprise level work, it's going to be a 5x up to a 10x experience, even though the work's basically the same. Like installing WordPress on a URL, that's the same work. Installing LifterLMS into the website, that's the same work. Putting in a CRM tool, that's the same work. Where the work gets crazy is when you have 8 or 9 voices trying to voice their opinion and basically, be the first to pee on the fire hydrant to get their idea, cemented into the site. And so you're dealing with a lot of politics and competing egos to get to a finished product, which can be exceedingly difficult. So yeah, the size of the company greatly affects the way that I attack the project. Delphine says, you have to get paid for the work, though. Sounds like you made your decision. Yeah, I kind of have a decision, Delphine. I hate collecting. I hate collecting. And my biggest fear is, yeah, someone says, oh, yeah, I really need a website. And you go, okay, it's $300 a month. And you go, okay, great. And then the first month goes by and it's 80% done. It's 2 weeks into the second month, the website's published, everybody's happy, revenue's coming in, whatever. Like it launches successfully, it launches unsuccessfully. It's up to the business to launch their project successfully. Like you build the website, but you don't run their business, right? So you don't have a lot of control over the success of a project. And so let's say we get $600 from them and they're still really, really happy, right? Now let's go $900 or $1,200 in at $300 a month. Let's say they're $1,200 in and all of a sudden they realize, oh crud, the only people that signed up in my membership or my learning website are 3 of my cousins, my wife, and my sister-in-law. And I gave everybody a 100% off coupon. Right? I'm $1,200 in. I haven't made any revenue off the project yet. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. And that's when those wheels start spinning backwards, right? But in my mind, they still have 14 more months of paying me $300 a month, right? But they might not get 14 more months out of their project if they don't get into the marketing mode and get into selling. So yeah, it's a battle. It's a battle for sure to think about the way to do it. The other thing to think about, and I think this is what Emily was talking about, was it's not just like, what's my agency hour worth, right? Because I'm talking about you need so many months at $300 a month to compensate for the build of the website. I think more of what Emily was discussing was like, what's the break even internally? Like if they paid for this thing for 4 months, would that cover my root cost to build the site for them? Like, would that cover my software and my hosting fees for that project, right? So if they paid 3 or 4 months of their subscription, would I at least be beyond the point of losing money? Like maybe I'm not making money on my time, but I got my root cost covered, right? So maybe that's a factor. Or then you start thinking, what does it really take to pay the mortgage, keep the lights on, to have the trash picked up? Look, what do I really need? My agency rate is this much. But what are my cost of goods? Like if you were to think of your agency as a retail business, what are my cost of goods? And then you think to yourself, okay, so what are all my expenses? Drill that down by the hours we create. What are my real cost of goods? And so there's a difference between cost of goods versus, margins versus retail. And so that's another timeline where you could say, okay, well, if they paid this for, if they paid it for 3 or 4 months, my root costs are covered. But if they paid it for 9 months or 12 months, my break-even point overall is covered, right? That's one way to think of that. And then if they paid it for the full 2 years, well, then now I'm in my margins and I'm making, the 100% of that margin I wanted to make. And then anything past the 2 years would just be icing on the cake, right? That's just pure margin at that point, other than paying for hosting, which when you're an agency is all one fee spread out over multiple sites anyway. So it's an interesting way to kind of look at things. So yeah, I don't know if I'll do the subscription model, to be honest with you or not. I'm more of an upfront kind of guy. I hate collecting, but there is a certain attractiveness to the idea that, if you had 25, 30 people giving you $300 a month, that would be consistent revenue that you could budget. And like at the beginning of the call, I was talking about June, July, and August generally are a downslope for us. And then we spool up September, October. If I went to the subscription model, I would be helping myself to eliminate that downturn over those 3 months. So I would even out my revenue year round. But it's the pros and cons, thinking about how you want to take people around. She says, what about charging per transaction or project section? Oh, we do that sometimes. We're a full service agency, Delphine. So sometimes someone will say, oh, hey, our website's already built. We just need help with this. We need a frequently asked questions accordion Dropbox done and with a black background or something. Let's whatever, right? Yeah, we can do that. We can. It's going to be this much, and we'll have it done on Tuesday, right? Like we do that. Also, there are some people, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that do like a per transaction. Like, hey, not a problem. My agency rate is whatever it is, $200, $300, $900, whatever. My agency rate's $1,000 an hour. Click this link and book a time. And they'll book a time, for an hour, and they're going to prepay that $1,000 before they get on a Zoom call with you. And you just run through that. So per transaction, like a live training situation. I threw the $1,000 out there because I thought it was funny. I don't know anyone that gets $1,000 an hour for that, but anyway, that's one of the things that I talk about. GPUs. Someone's trying to spam us and tell us to go to a different streaming tool.
I think it might be a service where you can buy stream views, but we don't need views.
We don't need views.
We don't need views.
Miss Puffles is back. She says, I've always been of the belief, do what you love for long enough and people will eventually follow. I know, Miss Puffles, but I'm old. I'm running out of time. I spent my whole life growing up thinking that I wouldn't live past 50. And now I'm 58 and healthy as an ox. I probably got 40 years in front of me. Yeah. If I would have started at your age, Emily, and realized that I was probably going to live till I was 95 years old, I probably would have made some different decisions. I would probably be a little more economically stable. But I decided to go race motorcycles instead. If anyone knows anything about motorcycle racing, that is not economically stable. Madhav says, hello, sir. Well, hello, sir, to you. Don't even know where he's from. I don't know where Madhav is from. For some reason, I thought Australian with that hat in the picture. All right. Is there anything you want to cover, Emily, before we close out the call?
I feel pretty good. You have that 55% coupon for anyone watching a replay or whatever. We got LifterLMS 9.0 released in the last 2 weeks or so with a couple of point updates. So a couple of bug fixes have already come out. You got that 9.0 release post where you can learn about everything new in 9.0, just a bunch of fixes kind of everywhere to the user experience and some new features being added. To give the plugin a more rounded feel, a more secure feel. I mean, it's not a more secure feel. It's actually like more secure. But yeah, it's like good stuff coming out.
I realize I am not Chris. Like Chris owns the thing. But I have been in the LifterLMS circles going on 11 years. It's been, because I started messing with it. I didn't realize what an early adopter I was until he started throwing around like dates and times and things, right? So when you have a product like Lifter that gets to like release 9.0, that's pretty cool, right? Because then you go, well, it's super stable, lots of development, lots of features. I think about the stuff we've introduced over the last 2 to 3 years, because groups was like 3.5 years ago, I think now. It feels like yesterday, but it was like 3.5 years ago. It's really cool to work alongside something that's so stable and so feature rich. I was thinking of other projects, not Lifter, other projects. And a lot of them don't get updated or features added at this rate, because they're already established and kind of standardized. So I think it's pretty cool that Lifter keeps moving forward and putting new things out.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap this one up. I know it's a little bit early, but we haven't had any real questions pop in. And I think we've talked about my personal business way too long today. So, folks, we encourage you to come next Thursday. WordCamp will be over by then, and maybe more people will be tuning in here instead of watching WordCamp live on stream. And we will see you next week. Emily, wave goodbye. I'm going to end the stream. I'm going to pick the outro video because it's not there. I'm going to set the outro video.